This is a $100 CF Type A memory card made by a company called Pergear. Whoops. This is a new standard version. It does says the max reading speed is 780 megabytes per second, and it does say the max write speed is 780 megabytes per second, but sustained write speed is 300 megabytes per second, which is kind of much closer to a SD card than CF Type A card. So is there any actual benefit of using these affordable CF Type A cards in your Sony camera? Let me break this down for you. My name is Magic. I'm a destination wedding photographer, and I've been running this YouTube channel for the last 3 years, talking about cameras, lenses, gear for wedding photography specifically. If you're interested in any of these topics, make sure to subscribe. So CF Type A cards, they've been around, for like a moment actually. The first time, I believe it was Sony A7S III that was introduced with this dual card slot, taking both SD or these CF Type A cards. The main benefit of these cards is that they're like faster. They're like way faster than SD cards, like almost 3 times faster than the fastest SD cards. But it comes at a price, like these are really expensive. There was a moment that we had like real hero in the land of CF Type A cards. It was the Angelbird 1 terabyte card for $500, but it has been discontinued. And recently we've got some new players on the field, and one of these players is this Chinese-based company called Pergear. They do have, I believe, like multiple accessories for cameras, and they are new to the CF Type A world. This is a new version of the card called Standard. I know there's also a Prime version. The Prime looks like it's better, but this one is cheaper, so maybe it is better for you. Let's find out. There are actually 3 benefits of using CF Type A cards in your cameras. One is for video. There are like one specific video mode that you can use if you're using CF Type A cards. I'm not a videographer, I'm a photographer. So for me, there are 2 benefits of using CF Type A cards. One is that with CF Type A, with a fast card, you're getting your buffer cleared much faster. So if you're shooting high burst, if you're shooting high megapixel cameras, maybe a 7R5, maybe A1, and you're shooting a burst, then with a CF Type A card, you will get your photos cleared faster and you'll be able to shoot, much more often. The second benefit is the offloading process. So getting these files out of the card to your computer. So with faster cards, you're getting the faster times. Both of these reasons to use CF Type A cards, I do appreciate as a wedding photographer. I do use high-speed burst on my cameras. Currently, I'm using Sony A9III that can shoot a lot of frames per second, and sometimes I do use that high-speed burst on these cameras, and in those moments I do appreciate if the buffer clears faster than slower. And the second one, I'm shooting thousands of photos on the wedding day, and since most of my weddings are destination weddings, I usually offload and back up my files either at night or in the morning in the hotel before I travel, because I want to have multiple copies of my files before I get on a plane or something. So offloading process and speed of the card, the read speed of the card is super important to me, and being able to, have that done in a shorter period of time than longer, it's something I really appreciate. My current memory card setup for my Sony A9III are those Angelbird 1 terabyte card. I have 2 of these, and I do use 2 cameras, so one gets into slot number 1 of the camera, and then in the slot 2 I either use Angelbird V90 256 gig cards, or most often these Sony Tough M cards, also 256 gigabytes of storage. So like having these 2 cards, I usually use the CF Type A for offloading process, obviously, because it's faster. But prices of these cards are, these are not cheap cards. Like Sony Tough M is a $120 card. The V90 SD cards, they're usually around $250, $300, and then CF Type A cards are usually $400, $500, $600, $700 depending on the card. So again, the best value used to be that 1 terabyte for $500, but it's not available anymore. So that $100 256 gigabyte CF Type A card seems very promising because it's even cheaper than the medium speed SD card. But how does it compare? So my test was shooting RAWs, full RAWs on my A9 Mark III's. Full RAW is a 50 megabyte file, and shooting 100 full RAW files on my A9 Mark III's. This is how much time it took to clear the buffer using different cards. Using Angelbird CF Type 8 card, around 6 seconds. Sony TUF CF Type A card, also around 6-7-ish seconds. It was slightly longer. Angelbird V90 card, around 20 seconds. Sony TUF V90 card, around 20 seconds. Sony TUF V60 card, around 28 seconds. And this beautiful Pergear card, 35 seconds, meaning longer than the medium speed SD card. So the write speed seems to be way off the promised 780 and even below this promised sustained speed of 300, which is something, you know, I probably would expect. This card is really affordable. So, you know, the price difference is huge, but also that speed difference is going to be huge. So, you know, this compared to any other CF Type A card that I had is a difference between 6 seconds clearing the buffer and 35 seconds clearing the buffer. So huge difference. But then I tested the offloading speeds, and that card actually performed really, really well in that regard. So the reader I was using is the Angelbird CF Type A reader, and copying back those 100 full RAW files took 9 seconds. So that's around 600 megabytes per second, so much closer to the promised number. And the same process on SD card V60 or V90 takes around 30 seconds with speeds, you know, roughly around 200 megabytes per second, so 3 times slower. So while the write speeds, specifically in camera, for that Pergear card are really bad, the read speeds are actually on par with any of the CF Type A cards that I have. So I tested the same process on Angelbird 1 terabyte or Sony TUF, took exactly the same amount of time, around 9 seconds. So what does that mean, and what is my recommendation? That card could be a great update if you're using SD cards. So if you're currently using SD cards, you don't have CF Type A cards, you don't have a need for CF Type A cards, but you would benefit from like a quick offloading process. This is a great card that you can get for your slot to record your photos and then offload using this one. Would I go for like Pergear in both slots? Probably not, because I personally don't know that brand that much and I do not trust the brand that well yet. Even though I've been using this for a month with no issues whatsoever, I would probably pair it with something that I trust more. So card like Sony TUF SD card in one slot and this Pergear card in a second slot, that could be a great combo, because the in-camera speed would be very similar on both of these. You wouldn't lose much, and then you would benefit a lot from just offloading your photos from that super fast CF Type A card in terms of reading. I hope to see more of these more affordable and better cards, appearing on the market, because that is a great option and alternative to a slower SD cards. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you guys very soon next week. Bye. Thanks.